So it's been 2 years since Ken Sim and his ABC party promised a brand new era for Vancouver, and boy did they win big, securing a historic supermajority. But the real question is, have they actually delivered? Today, we're going to dig into the legacy of that victory. We're talking controversial policy changes, a pretty major scandal brewing at City Hall, and all of this is happening while Vancouver is staring down a massive crisis of affordability and public trust. Right from the very beginning, this has been a story all about perception. This comment here from a local Vancouverite, it really cuts to the heart of a question that's been following Mayor Sim from day one. Who's really pulling the strings in Vancouver? All right, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to look at how Sim's party grabbed power in the first place, the policies they've rolled out, the cracks that are starting to show in that big majority, and yep, those lingering questions of who's really influential. Then we'll dive into a serious scandal and wrap up with the huge crises facing Vancouver right now. Okay, let's start at the beginning, because to really get what's happened over the last 2 years, you have to understand the sheer scale of that 2022 election. Look, this wasn't just a win, it was basically a political earthquake. Getting 7 out of 10 council seats, a supermajority, gave Mayor Sim and his party the power to pretty much reshape the city's agenda however they wanted, with almost no real opposition. That kind of ironclad control is super rare in Vancouver politics, and it really set the stage for some fast and, frankly, very controversial changes. So, with all that power in their hands, what did they actually do? Let's take a look at how those campaign promises turned into real-world policy. Well, the new council certainly didn't waste any time. They moved lightning fast on some of their biggest promises. Tearing out that controversial bike lane in Stanley Park? Done. Bumping up the funding for police and fire services? You got it. Allowing big corporate logos on city property? Approved. And of course, they started the huge fight to get rid of the elected park board entirely. Every single one of these moves sent a really clear signal about their new direction for the city. Now, one of the most important changes actually happened a bit behind the scenes with the city's wage policy. See, the old council was a certified living wage employer, but the new council, they scrapped that. Instead, they brought in a new formula based on a 5-year rolling average. Now, critics jumped on this, saying it's basically a pay cut in disguise for the city's lowest paid workers, because their wages won't keep up with the insane cost of living in Vancouver anymore. And the changes weren't just about budgets. The administration's vision for housing and development has been just as polarizing. Their new official development plan, or ODP, is all about massive densification, but it has drawn some incredibly fierce criticism. One architect went so far as to call it the official death plan. His argument? You can't just throw up skyscrapers everywhere without also planning for the schools, the parks, and all the services for the hundreds of thousands of new people you're hoping to attract. But here's the thing. While they were trying to present this united front to the public, behind the scenes, that unity was starting to look a little shaky. Yeah, 2 years into their term, the cracks in that ABC supermajority really started to show. And it all kind of exploded during this one marathon 12-hour council meeting. The fighting wasn't just with the opposition anymore, it was happening inside the ruling party itself. I mean, this quote right here says it all. That was an ABC councillor yelling at another member of her own party who was chairing the meeting. The tension got so bad that they were cutting off microphones and had to call a recess. It was just a wild, public meltdown of a party that seemed to be at war with itself. And the infighting didn't stop there. In a move that broke with a really long-standing City Hall tradition, Mayor Sim straight up removed the 2 Green Party councillors from their roles as alternate city reps. For his opponents, this was a total power play, a way to shut down any kind of dissent and tighten his control. All of which leads us to that next big question. Who is really influencing the mayor and this council? So this timeline is pretty striking. In January 2024, a federal inquiry comes out with this big warning that China is actively targeting Canadian politicians at all levels. Then just 2 weeks later, Mayor Sim is photographed attending a banquet with Chinese diplomats and known pro-Beijing groups. His office said it was just community outreach, but for his critics, the timing was, let's just say, very concerning. And then, of course, there's the question of local influence. You really can't talk about power in Vancouver without talking about Chip Wilson, the billionaire founder of Lululemon. He's a huge, very outspoken figure in the city, and his close ties to Mayor Sim have fueled this persistent idea that the mayor is really governing for the city's wealthy elite. But the single biggest challenge to this administration's integrity
is a serious scandal that's been brewing right inside City Hall.
Okay, before we dive into the juicy details, you need to know about the Office of the Auditor General, or the OAG. Basically, they're the city's independent watchdog. When the OAG opens an investigation, you know the allegations are serious.
And the allegations here are absolutely explosive. The OAG is investigating a city building inspector for a whole laundry list of alleged corrupt activities. We're talking conflicts of interest, giving special treatment to certain contractors, allegedly taking bribes to pass inspections, and even moonlighting on private jobs while wearing his city uniform. I mean, this is the kind of corruption that just destroys public trust.
Finally, let's just zoom all the way out. Because all of this political drama is happening while Vancouver itself is basically in a state of crisis. You know, Vancouver has always had this kind of split personality. On one hand, it's always ranked as one of the most livable cities on the entire planet. But, as you can see from this chart, when you start looking at its economy and its environment, a very, very different story starts to emerge. And here's what that looks like on the ground. This number, 44 picograms per gram, it probably means nothing to you, right? Well, it's the level of toxic dioxins that were found in the dust near the city's incinerator. To put that in perspective, that is 19 times higher than what Health Canada says is a tolerable, safe level. It is a ticking public health time bomb. And on the economy side, the housing crisis has entered a terrifying new phase. Developers are now calling it a cost of delivery crisis. It's not just about affordability anymore. It's about the fact that it has become so expensive and difficult to build new homes in Vancouver that it's just not financially viable, which is choking off the new supply the city desperately, desperately needs. This comment from another Vancouver resident, it really captures the sense of disillusionment that a lot of people seem to be feeling. It's about the mayor's controversial trip to the World Cup in Qatar early in his term. And it speaks to this growing feeling that the city's leaders are just out of touch with the very real crises happening right here at home. Which brings us right back to the central question. Ken Sim has the power. He has the mandate to completely reshape Vancouver. But with his own party showing deep cracks, a massive scandal unfolding, and a city in the grip of multiple crises, can he actually deliver on his promises? And maybe more importantly, can he regain the trust of the very people who elected him?